Well, welcome back to another episode, all you Echospective listeners.
Yes, thank you. I am Marquise. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in for another week of What's on Your Mind. No, for another week of
I don't know if we
for
want to
us.
ask
And
people that.
no, we probably don't. But it was just off the top of the dome. Maybe
Yeah,
that's a future show for us. I guess we
off
can
the
have
top
someone
of the
call in.
dome.
So, but again, thank you guys for listening to Echospective. You can always check us out. We got our website up and running, just waiting for your little fingers to go get on and echospective.com. We can do Facebook. You can reach us Facebook. You can reach us YouTube, Twitter. TikTok. You can email us at the little square box that says sign us, send us a message, find us a message. Yeah, we won't see it. And
That's
you can
right.
call us at 336-298-8124.
Yes, please. Somebody try that out. I want to make sure that it still works. And it would be cool to hear from one of our listeners. So, I'm kind of surprised we haven't gotten a prank call.
Not yet. That's
No.
coming, I'm sure.
Yeah, or
Or
some
not.
insurance person is going to try to call and sell us some insurance.
Yeah, well, we don't need that.
No. Marquise, this week, I think it's a very interesting episode because it's kind of podcast adjacent. We have Tami Rumfelt, who is a radio DJ. Radio DJ.
That's a change of events for what we normally have.
Yeah. Um, So yeah, it's somebody that's involved in, the music world, but whose profession is that they play it. And I mean, I guess that kind of sounds like someone who plays an instrument. They are the facilitator of music for people, something like
Facilitator
that.
of music. Yeah, that's a
That
title.
that sounds like uh like something from Ghostbusters. I went to see Ghostbusters over the weekend, and you know how Ghostbusters has all those crazy names like Gatekeeper and
Yeah.
Keymaster. And in this new one, I don't think this is a necessarily a spoiler, but one of the characters is a fire master. So Tammy is a facilitator of music.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna give that title. That's a new title.
that's
We
right.
can add
I'm not going to call people DJs anymore. I'm going to call them
mm-mm.
facilitators of music.
Facilitators of music. That's what they are.
So it's interesting. I've having barely even dipped my toes in the radio world. And Marquise, you've got some experience in that neck of the woods as well. So it was interesting, at least for me, and hopefully the listeners. Kind of a day in the life of a radio personality and how someone gets there and how somebody stays there. So she's got some good stuff to share.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear, especially from that point of view, because I've definitely I started in radio. Actually, I started in Christian radio. So that was my first job in school. So I'm interested to hear what she has to say in her journey because mine was also when I was young in school and trying to figure it out. And
Yeah,
so that's going to be interesting to hear.
maybe some of it will resonate with you when
Mm,
when you listen to it.
yeah, I can't wait.
So, speaking of listening to it, let's listen.
Dun, dun, dun.
Here we go. Oh, how about
Hey,
now? There we go.
I hear you now.
I don't know what was going on.
Story of my life. If I had an autobiography, That would be the name of it. I don't know what was going on.
Okay, well, Tammy, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, Tami Rumfelt. I'm a lot of different things, but one thing that a lot of people find interesting is that I work in radio. I've worked
Ooh,
in radio for a very long time since, in fact, I was trying to figure out, and is much further than I'm capable to do in math. But I was trying to figure out the other day, like, how many actual hours of on air time, like, have I
yeah.
been on air? Because it just struck me the other day after doing like three shifts in a row or whatever. It's like, I wonder how many hours I've been on the radio, and it's really beyond my ability to math, which does not speak as much about my radio experience as it does my lack of math skills. But it's been a
Right.
long time. I started in radio when I was 17 years old. I was right out of high school. I was working at Walmart, and there was a little tiny radio station in my little town in Wilmington, Ohio, that had an ad in the paper for I think on air announcer was
Ooh.
the job title. And I was like, that sounds a lot better than Walmart. So I thought, I'm going to go see if I can get that job. And because you're 17 and you think you can do whatever you want to do,
Right.
I walked in and said, I'd like this job. And they said, well, let's record you reading some scripts. And I did. They're like, okay. So they were clearly pretty desperate for some help. And so they hired me. And ever since then, that was 1990, yeah, or
Ooh,
91.
wow.
I've basically been working in radio with just a few breaks here and there, but I've worked in radio pretty much the whole time. Even when I try to get out, it just kind of
It
keeps sucking me back
pulls you
in.
back in. It's like The
Yeah,
Sopranos.
exactly.
You know what's funny? I've never watched The Sopranos, but I know that line, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's like, yeah, it's definitely memorable for sure.
It's like if you've never seen Scarface, you know, say hello to my little friend.
Yeah, or badges. We don't need no stinking badges. What is that?
Right.
Blazing Saddles, maybe.
Yeah,
Anyway.
or would you say I had a plethora, El Guapo?
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, okay. So this episode is going to kind of be like Memento. So we started at the end. We got this picture of what you do now. Now we're going to go
Yeah.
back. We're going to go back in the past, and
Okay.
we're gonna find out possibly, hopefully, how you got there. Um,
Okay.
think back in your history, and
Uh-huh.
is there a time that stands out that you heard a song or just music in general, and it affected you in some way?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I should have taken my antidepressant this morning because this may turn into a real sob fest here.
Hey, let's do it.
So I remember the first song I remember loving
Yeah.
was this is so cheesy. John Denver,
Uh-huh.
Sunshine on My Shoulders.
Okay.
And I was a little girl, like little, like probably, I don't know, five, maybe 5, 6 years old.
Okay.
And I think it was just as a 5 year old, you don't know a lot about the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
don't really get a lot about anything, but like you know that sunshine on your shoulders makes you happy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there was just something about the simplicity, and I fell madly in love with John Denver, and I used to be able to sing all of his songs, and I wanted to play the guitar, so my parents got a little guitar. I don't know where they, but I remember trying to strum along and sing, and there's pictures of me as a little girl with headphones, which is hilarious now because it's
Yeah.
like I've been wearing headphones. I joke I probably have an indentation in my head now from wearing headphones my whole life, but it started back then. And I still see the pictures and me just belting out John Denver, Sunshine on My Shoulders. And I do think it was just the simplicity of the song and the beauty of it, and being childlike in my, my understanding of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this year an ad came out, and I think it's for Chevy, And it was that was the song in the background.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. And it was one of those commercials like that just absolutely wrecked me. And I'm
Uh-huh.
not really a very sentimental person, but it's about this like daughter or like a niece or a granddaughter taking the grandma out,
Uh-huh.
and grandma's like got dementia, but she takes her to all of these places where grandma remembered, like hopefully helping to spark some memory.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wrecked me. But
Whew.
that was the song in the background, which wrecked me even more. And that's
Yeah,
why I can't even talk
double
about it
dose.
now without even crying. But yeah, that was probably my first song that I just loved and really loved on every level.
Yeah. What'd you think about John Denver's haircut?
Oh, I loved it. Like I loved all things John Denver. I mean, come on, I was a kid of this was in the early 70s and I was
Yeah.
born in 72, so I was right there. But here's my moment. This is really funny. Alton and I went to Colorado for the first time maybe 5 years ago, and we landed of course in Denver. And John Denver was all the Colorado guy, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I realized for the first time that like John Denver wasn't actually his name, and how absolutely corny it was that he picked Denver as his last name. Like now looking at it as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a cheese ball. He went
Yeah.
with Denver as his last name. Like what a dork, but God rest his soul.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I was younger, there was a mystique that made me a little bit older. I kind of got over. I was like, oh my gosh, Denver. Duh. No wonder he picked Denver. And how corny is that? I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
That's
Anyway,
funny.
the other funny, and I don't know if you'll be able to, but on one of his album, because we had the albums at the time, and one of his albums, I don't know if it's greatest hits or whatever. There's a picture on the back of him with a bunch of friends or like sitting around a campfire or something. I'm sure it was like on some mountain in Colorado or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And he's wearing a t-shirt that says something like life is short, kiss a beaver. As a kid, that had a total, but again, that was another one of those you reach a certain age, you're like, oh.
Right. Heyo.
Oh. Silly John Denver. Anyway,
Oh man. Did that spark an infatuation with music in general then? 'Cause you kind of have to love music to do what you do, right? Because you're
well,
around it all the time. Or did you love it then and you just hate it now?
it's funny. So I think it probably did. I mean, I've always loved music, and music
Uh-huh.
has always been, a core part of my life and my livelihood. I mean, it
Yeah.
went from that, the little girl singing John Denver, to being a teenager and listening to the radio. And I don't know if you have this memory because you're so youthful, but
That's right.
having the cassette tape like queued up so you could hit
Uh-huh.
record as soon as the
Yes.
song came on, and wishing
Yes.
that the DJ would shut up so you could get your song recorded. And I was one of those dorks that like called into radio station to request songs and try and get on the radio. So
That's
yes,
cool.
I definitely have always had, and I've been through all different kinds of musical, stages, different times of being crazy about different genres. I look back at some of my music listening when I was younger and think, okay, what were you thinking? But then some of it, I'm like, okay, you know what? I was pretty eclectic, and maybe I had better taste than I thought I did. Um, and now it's interesting because now in my role currently at the radio station I'm at, I'm a program director, which means I'm pretty involved with um deciding which songs get added, to our playlist, and which ones
Uh-huh.
get dropped, and which ones we just kind of pass over. And that's I'm like I am everything that's wrong with radio. Everybody who is a music, like an audiophile, that's like, oh, this is why radio sucks. Yeah, it's me. I'm the
Uh-huh. Yeah.
problem. It's me. But we're so
Too
reliant.
corporate.
Exactly. We're so reliant on testing. It's all about
Yeah.
testing. And does a song test well? And if it, we want other stations that are a little bit more ground, like more willing to take risks on song. We kind of let them take the risks, and then we're like, okay, let's see how
Ooh.
it's doing there
Yeah.
before we say let's add it here. You know,
Sneaky.
yeah, I know. And so it's there's so much involved in why a song gets played, and I'm learning that there are songs that I love personally
Hmm.
that I already know, like that's just not a radio song. And I
Right.
know that that is immediately ticking a lot of people off and making people listening not like me. But it's just the way that radio works. And we could get into a long discussion about that. But I mean, it's just how radio is. I mean, you're trying to appeal to the masses. And
Sure.
thankfully,
Sure.
what's on my Spotify playlist, some of it's what we play on the radio, and then a lot of it's not, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, now I think my role now has um changed my relationship with music to some extent, for sure.
And I was probably just as big of a dork as you were when I was younger, because I used to record the songs and then pretend I was the DJ. So
Oh yeah.
I would record a
Yeah.
song and then I record myself going, "Oh, that was so and so," and next up is
Uh-huh. I have a tape of me and my cousin. Somewhere there's a cassette of us playing radio, which was fun.
oh
Not only did
man,
I do that, I would I would read the description of shampoos on shampoo bottles and
oh
and
nice.
conditioners, like I was doing a commercial. So
You were
yeah.
an influencer before
I
such
mean,
a thing existed.
it was just me in my bathroom. I mean, there wasn't really anybody in there to
Isn't that kind
influence,
of what
but
it
yeah, I
is
guess
now?
so. Well, yeah, theoretically, it really
You
is, no
just-
doubt. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. It's funny. So this is kind of what this podcast is about. It's hearing stories from people who are different
Mhm.
and kind of finding out, man, we have some shared experiences.
Right,
Um,
right. Yeah.
and you and I aren't that far off in age, but we're also different genders and
Mhm.
we have different career paths and all that kind of stuff. But for you to tell that story of what you did when you were younger and I compare it to what I did, it's like, man, we were like, how many more people out there were doing that kind of thing? And but when you're doing it, you go, oh man, I'm so cool. Like,
I'm such a dork. I would just be so embarrassed if anybody knew I was
right,
doing this. And
right.
then, yeah, yeah. No, you're right. And you know what? I think the beauty of music is that music, even though everybody has their own individual experience with music and everybody has their own kind of on a micro level tastes and
Uh-huh.
whatever, music is, I think there's nothing outside of, outside of faith that I don't think there's anything that unites us like
Right.
music. I think
Hmm.
it just creates,
Totally.
can instantly create a mood. In fact, we were on a little road trip to the coast over the weekend, and my son was playing kind of DJ for us in the car, and he was talking about being on a road trip with some other people, and they kind of got in like an argument. Some of the other people in the car got in an argument, and he had kind of control of the playlist. And just to kind of bring the mood down, he put on Bob Marley. No, first it was "You've Got a Friend in Me" from
Uh-huh.
Toy Story, and then it was like Bob Marley, "Don't Worry About a Thing," and then it was Bobby McFerrin, "Don't Worry, Be Happy." And he was like, it was so funny to watch like the temperature in the car,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
even people trying to be mad at each other, at some point they just couldn't anymore. So yeah, music is powerful, and it
for
does give us
sure.
these common experiences where people from all different backgrounds
Yep.
can come together and unite. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot going on now, and I mean, really now isn't that much different from really any time in the past, I suppose, but maybe it's more palpable or something right now. But
Well, at Christmas, our station, we went all Christmas music on Thanksgiving and just kept it all Christmas
uh-huh,
through Christmas Day. And one of the things that really struck me this year, and again, I just lost my mom, and I think I'm just in a little bit more tender, sentimental kind of place, and my life
sure.
has so drastically changed. But like playing these Christmas songs, like "Rocking Around the Christmas Tree," or the Beach Boys, their Christmas stuff, or whatever,
Uh-huh.
Elvis, or whatever. Like thinking about the fact that not just my mom, but like her mom,
Yeah.
and even some of the like more traditional like carols, like people for generations have
Yes.
sung these songs together.
Yes.
And here we are still playing them on the radio, and now little kids are singing those songs with their like there's just something so, I don't know, it's supernatural. Like there's
Yeah.
something that goes beyond what I think we can understand, that this power that music has.
Mm-hmm. Um, that just made me think of a Christmas Vacation, which seems
Mhm.
like a weird tangent, but I'm going to bring it in. So the scene where Chevy Chase is up in the attic and he
Oh
is,
my goodness.
oh,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
gets me every time. So for those who haven't seen the movie, if there is anybody who hasn't seen the movie, Chevy Chase is up. He gets stuck in the attic and he's trying to make the best of his time up there while his family is out shopping without him. And he runs across some old reel to reel, I guess like Super 88 home footage. Um, and he's sitting up there watching it, and it's supposed to be from when he was a kid.
Mhm.
And there's this juxtaposition of the family's there and it's just a nightmare,
Mhm.
and the in-laws and his parents, and there's all this bickering and but he can watch these videos and go back to a time where it's like an age of innocence and everything's simpler, and he remembers his parents in a better light and all that. And I I've seen that movie a gazillion times.
Mhm.
But you watch that scene when you have your own family.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And every year, like, the older you get and the older your kids get, the more that one scene gets more meaningful and sentimental, and the song, it's that Ray Charles "Spirit of
Uh-huh.
Christmas" playing
Yes.
in the background, and it's like, oh, it is, and it's the one, like, in the middle of the slapstick and silly of that movie, it's
Yeah.
just the one real
Yeah.
moment, and they like, the people who chose the soundtrack for that, like, putting that
So
song
good.
there was genius. Oh, it's so good. I get goosebumps just thinking about it.
And I think about back to when my grandparents were alive and they had Super 88
Mhm,
reel to reel, and
mhm,
we would watch their. So it's interesting for somebody like me who has experienced that in real life, and it really brings it all together, and you're just like, man, the passage of time, and you want to make the best of what you have and where you're at and all that. And I was going to say earlier that that's time where people want to concentrate so much on what separates us.
mhm,
It's you're either right or wrong, or you're left or right, or you're whatever. Like we started this because we want to. I guess the tagline of this podcast is maintaining the middle,
mm,
and we want to me anyway, for somebody who's a pretty middle ground person. I don't really stake a lot of flags
mhm,
on much of anything. Um, you know, when you're in that position, you're in a better position to hear both sides. You're in a
yes,
better position to be willing to listen and not talk to. Um, so hopefully, as we move along in this endeavor and um, continue to have people do what we're doing now, and who knows, maybe you'd like to be on again and we can talk about different things. um, it's just all about gaining that perspective and listening to people share their stories, because storytelling is just so ingrained in who we are as people.
mhm,
That storytelling through the ages is what keeps you in touch with your past and with your heritage and all that. But it also gives you an idea of how you can move forward if you know where people have been before you. Um, so all that to say, speaking about journeys,
mhm.
so you took that first gig
Yeah.
and did it solidify things for you? Did you go, you know what? I have found it. Or did you feel like, this is kind of lame. I don't know if I want to do this.
Like I I think now now after 27 years of doing radio, and this is the first job that doesn't really feel like it was an accident.
Well, that's
Like
good.
it's the first one. I'm like, okay, I get it. This is what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Right. Right.
um,
Yeah.
like I the first job was just totally like a lark. Like, okay, yeah, I could go do this. I can work at Walmart for another year, which is fine. Like, no shame in working at Walmart. But I think everybody should work at retail for at least a year of their life. Or I can go work at a radio station and talk and play music, and that just sounds like fun. So let's do that. And so I did that, and then we moved to we that was in Ohio. My family moved to North Carolina for my dad's job, and I decided to move with them. And I was taking a college class at UNCG, and in my class was, if you live in North Carolina, you probably know two guys named Chris on Rock 92.
Uh-huh.
So Chris Kelly from was actually at a different morning show then, but he was in my one of my classes. And
Really?
so, yeah, so we got to talking about like what we all do for a living. And he said he worked on a morning show. That was back when Murphy in the Morning was the thing.
Oh, Murphy in the morning. Oh
Yeah,
my
right. So
gosh.
Chris co-hosted with Murphy. And I was like, oh, cool. I used to work in radio. And he's like, oh, really? Well, give me your tape and I'll take it in. And maybe if we've got an opening, we'll get you on the staff there. I was like, oh, that'd be really cool.
Whoa.
Again, totally like fluke. So
Yeah.
my husband, his roommate is friends with someone whose brother worked at another station. He helped me put together a cassette tape, like a demo tape, because I didn't
Uh-huh.
have one. And let me tell you, I've listened to that not too long ago. The fact that anybody hired me, it's true that this was meant for me because it's a miracle. So, like, anyway, he brought it into work and they were like, yeah, okay, we could probably use her on the weekends around here. So they hired me to work there, and I was working at it was the Eagle and Rock 92, and I kind of did both stations, whatever. Did that for like 5 years.
Oh, cool.
Then got married, had a baby, got out of radio for a little while. Then I was working at the Y, and one of the guys who was coming in for swim meets for his kids happened to be the program director at WBFJ. Well, I get to know him, and he's like, "Yeah, we could, come on in." And I started volunteering, doing something on the morning show, and then they were like, "Oh, we really like you. Let's get you on full time." So then I start, like every single job, it was just like I tripped into.
Wow.
And so yeah, but at some point, probably in the past, I would say maybe 10 years, seriously, it was like, all right, this is clearly my career. This is not just one job after another. Like this is the path I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
on. And so yeah.
Why don't you take us through a typical day at a radio station, if there is such a thing?
Yeah, there's not.
Yeah.
So today is our staff meeting day. So today tends to be a little bit of a crazier day because it's like, get in, have your
Uh-huh.
staff meeting, and then everybody goes and does all the things that we, talked about doing in the staff meeting. So and every station is a little bit different. I'm very, very thankful to be working at an independently owned and run radio station. We're not part of a
Oh,
network. I've done the
okay.
whole network thing,
Uh-huh.
and I met some amazing, wonderful people there. Also got laid off from there because that's how the nature of the beast is. And
Right.
it's so different now. Like if you're working at a big network, like, like iHeart or Odyssey or whatever, it's a completely different environment.
Uh-huh.
We're still kind of a mom and pop. So we've got a sales department, we've got programming, we've got promotions, we've got admin. We all come together at a staff meeting and kind of each do our little reports and whatever. And then my job is to kind of make sure that everything that comes out of the speakers when you turn on the radio is pretty much ultimately my responsibility. So I need to make sure that the stuff that needs to be produced is produced the way it's supposed to, and that commercials are kind of airing the way they're supposed to sound. I also have an air shift. I'm on from 2 to 7 every day, so part of my day is also show prep and getting my show ready, meeting with our music director and kind of going through songs and which ones we're looking at changing and adding and moving. And yeah,
Ooh.
so from my perspective, it's a lot about what's on the air. From this, a salesperson is going to tell you their typical day is very different. A
Right.
general manager will tell you it's very different. So yeah, but it's just a lot about, making sure that the quality of what's coming out of the speakers is excellent,
Hmm.
and making sure all the pieces are in place so that can happen.
Sounds like a lot.
It is. It's an awful It is. But it's, you know what? After working from home for 3+ years and
Yeah.
being extremely narrow focused in what I had to do every day, it has been a little bit like drinking from a fire hydrant, just learning
Sure.
all of the jobs that I'm doing now, and I'm still have so much to learn. But I have a great team, and a really wonderful, supportive boss who is making sure I have what I need to do the job I need to do. So it's kind of a nice, like, my brain had started to stop working, I think. It took me just a few weeks in this job to just like recognize that I had only been using a very small part of my brain,
Uh,
and other brain cells had to like come to life. Some new synapses need to form
yeah.
because
Yeah.
they hadn't been. So yeah.
Your first day, you're like, me no talk good.
Yeah, exactly. That's still the 3 months in. I'm like, I don't have words. Sorry, guys.
Beep, burp, beep.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I was going to ask you two questions. The first question was the best day that you had at work. And I
Oh,
think you
yeah.
started
Okay.
you
Yeah.
started talking about something.
Yeah. Okay. So there have been a lot of best days. But for me, I think my favorite thing that I get to do is I get to help with radio fundraisers pretty often.
Okay.
And most people are like, ugh, nobody wants to go help, like, ask people for money. And I definitely used to feel that way about it. And to me, it really depends on what I'm raising money for.
Sure.
But there's just something really cool. If you've ever given to anything that you thought was important, um, you get this really cool feeling inside when you do that.
Yeah.
And to kind of unlock that in people and maybe put things in front of them that they didn't even realize they could be a part of, and then they get to be a part of it. Like, just yesterday, I was helping with a fundraiser to support this organization called India Partners, and they build safe houses for girls and young women who have been rescued from the red light district
Okay.
in India. And so, like, their stories are just like, oh, they're so hard
Yeah.
to hear, right?
Yeah.
It's really emotionally draining to just even do it. But like, here we are, we're on the radio and people are just like getting up and starting their day, and this isn't even on their radar.
Oh, right.
And so it's kind of like coming to them and going, hey, I know you aren't really thinking about this right now, but you know that this is a problem. You've heard of it before, and
Hmm.
you've probably thought, well, there's nothing I can do about that. But I'm here to tell you that
There is.
you can help provide a place for these girls to be. And so then, in many people, it just opens up this place in them of generosity and love, and that's just so good to be to be the person who helps get that going. I mean, I love that. I love
Yeah,
those
that's
things.
major.
Yeah, and so if I had to distill that to one experience, there was a time we were raising money for a children's home in Honduras. And in this case, the kids were actually listening as we did the fundraiser.
Oh, wow.
And we were communicating with the director. She was messaging us and she was like, hey, we have a little girl here who it's her birthday. So, one thing you could do is wish her happy birthday. So we all sang happy birthday to her in Spanish. And later the director was like, she's brand new to this children's home, and she's kind of, as you can imagine, a pretty scary
Yeah,
and uncertain time for a kid in that
for sure.
situation. And she said it just like you could just see in that moment, like someone was paying attention to just her and making her feel special. And
Wow.
it was really cool, So to be able to use this medium that God has given me, this privilege and honor of being a part of for so long, but to use it in a way like that, that's the best of the best, right?
Yeah, man. And like you're seeing in real time the fruits of the labor.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I think sometimes people might give to charities or or causes, and it's transactional. They're like, I'm
Hmm.
writing a check and it goes off to where it goes, and who knows what happens. But
Yeah.
to know that changes are being made like right then, and oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not always like that exact
Right. Yeah.
direct kind of thing, but when it is, it's just great. And yeah, when it's stuff that I really am passionate and care a lot about too. And but I really love it. I know it sounds cheesy, but I just love helping to unlock a place in people that opens them up to generosity and whatever it is. Like,
Yeah,
and I'll say that when we're doing these fundraisers, and I genuinely mean it. I'm like, if you don't give to this, if this is not the thing for you, that's fine, but give to something. Do it for obviously the recipient, whatever it is, but for yourself too, because there's a
for sure.
blessing in that. And I don't want you to miss out on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
What about the worst day? When, and I'm sure there's lots of worst days too.
Oh
But what's
gosh.
what's one of those days where the wheels just fell off?
Well, this is going to get really deep. I don't know if you even
Ooh,
know the can of worms that you just opened up.
I love it.
But so back in, I want to say it was 2011. I had been part of the same morning show with the same guys since 2004. I think
Oh,
I have these
wow.
dates. And one the host of our show, Darren, um, he had to go like a few days previously. He went to the hospital for appendicitis.
Ooh.
And appendicitis, you think, okay, it sucks, it's bad as an adult, but he'll be fine. Yeah. So uh anyway, we got a call from our manager, um, like on a I don't remember what morning it was. Um, but he was like, "Hey guys, I have some really horrible news. Darren died. He passed
What?
away." So his apparently he had developed like a blood clot
Oh,
in just being stable, like being sedentary in the hospital or whatever.
oh,
And he had developed a
wow.
blood clot, and in the middle of the night he asked, to go up and go to the bathroom, and the nurse came and like he collapsed and he died.
Wow.
So yeah, and so you know, we all get close with our coworkers, but there's something about like every single day you're in a small room with these people when you do
Uh-huh.
radio. You get to know intimately about each other's families, and you have
Yeah.
bad days with each other where you want to kill each other, then you make up, and it's like, you get really, really close. And so it was devastating. But like the worst thing was is that Wally, our manager, told us about it like 6:30 in the morning, right? But he was
Uh-huh.
like, "We can't talk about it on
Oh,
air,
oh,
right?
wow.
Until we know for sure that all of his family knows."
Yeah, that's true.
Um, and
Ugh.
so we're trying to do a show, and I'm falling apart. Like
Yeah.
I'm like between a live show, we're like I'm like weeping, and we're trying to do breaks, and so we just did really quick breaks. Like it was just you know um and then when we finally were able to share the news on air, it was horrible. So yeah, I
Wow.
mean, I wish I had a better like funny like haha, this was the worst thing that ever happened. This is not one of those stories. This was
Yeah.
absolutely horrific. It was the worst. I mean, I can't imagine anything ever being worse than that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that
That
was my worst day on the radio
yeah,
for sure.
we'll take it. And
Yeah.
I guess that's the kind of stuff that people just don't really think about. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really think about what would happen if somebody I worked with died.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just not something that, happens very often. And
Yeah.
and I just there's no scenario that I know of except for maybe like police officers who have a partner, or
Right.
people who like work in that kind of thing where you work with the same partner every single day and you're in close quarters and you like really like it's just a different it's a different thing. And
Yeah.
it was so It was so devastating. Oh my gosh. Plus he has, he had 3 kids who were all very young at the time. The youngest was,
Oh
I'm
man.
thinking under 5. Yeah, it was just, oh my God. It was
Jeez.
so bad. So yeah, that was definitely the worst day.
Yeah, that's not good.
No. No.
What advice what advice would you give somebody who wants to get into this game?
Into radio?
Yeah. Would
I
you tell
would
them not to?
maybe, I don't know. Like it's, there's always like, I don't know. For 25 years now, we've been hearing about how radio's going to die now. Everything
Uh-huh.
that comes along, like satellite radio, is going to kill terrestrial radio,
Right.
digital stuff. Not podcast, well, podcast, but before that, like Spotify and iPods and whatever.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
all going to be the death of radio. And still, here we are, and a lot of people still listen to the radio every single day.
sure.
And so, from that perspective, I'd say, yeah, I mean, it still has a future, I believe, at least for the time being. Um, I would say it's really hard. It's harder than ever to get into radio if you want to be on the air
Okay.
because, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but a lot of the bigger like network and big companies like Clear Channel and Odyssey, or Clear Channel, iHeartMedia, Odyssey, the big ones, the big players, they're
Yeah,
doing stuff on more of a national level. They have hosts that host these shows that are aired on their stations all across the country.
yeah.
And so there just aren't as many like entry level jobs. I mean, nobody does like when I got in radio, if you were brand new, they stuck you on overnights and weekends. And which was great because it was a really good place for you to kind of find your voice and
Yeah.
learn how to do the job without making a fool out of yourself in front of too many people.
Right.
But now everything's like automated and people voice track and
Uh,
so it's a little bit harder. That said though, there are still pathways in. One thing is what you're doing. I think that I tell anybody who asks me, I want to get into radio, what should I do? I'm like, do a podcast
yeah,
because anybody can do it. It's not expensive. It helps you figure out how to be a personality in front of a microphone,
yeah.
which is not easy, really.
No.
And it helps you kind of, get into a little bit of a groove to find yourself. And then don't do it so you get a bunch of listeners. Don't do it so that you make money. Do it because you're really just trying to learn how to do this thing.
Uh-huh.
And then if it goes well, you're going to have some material that you can use to send to prospective employers.
That's
Say, hey,
true.
here's some audio of me doing my thing on my podcast.
Here's my portfolio.
Yeah,
Check it
exactly.
out.
Exactly. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is volunteer. I got my first job in Christian radio before one of my biggest gigs doing mornings at WBFJ was I landed because I kind of met the guy who was the program director. I said, I've worked in radio. I'd like to get back into it again. He's like, we don't really have any jobs right now. But they gave me like a little volunteer thing where I came in and I just talked about different topics on the morning show with them. Now, that's not going to be the path that a lot of people can just walk in and take. I had a lot of experience in radio already,
Yeah.
but we just hired a girl here at the station where I am now to be our promotions director. And she started with us as a street team member. She was basically helping us hand out bumper stickers at station events. And we saw
Oh,
something in her that she had some potential. And so we've brought her in as a promotions director, and we'd like to train her to eventually be on the air. So,
that's cool.
yeah, people tend to be less about like, I went to broadcasting school and got a job, and more about
Yeah.
like, I was in the right place at the right time, talking to the right people,
Yeah.
and was kind of willing to come in and do anything they wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
it's like getting in the building. And
Right.
if someone sees something in you that's trainable, then they can work with that. So that's what I
Yeah.
would say.
That's some good advice. And I think being willing to put in the grind and pay your dues is
Yeah.
huge, really for anything. But I can especially see for that. Um, and I'm sure when she was handing out the bumper stickers and stuff like that. And maybe knowing then that her dream was to actually work there, um, but go on, it's all about baby steps. And
Yeah.
no one's going to get big overnight. No one's going to be super successful overnight. Well, statistically speaking, anyway.
Right.
Uh,
Yes. I mean,
um,
occasionally people do, but yeah, it's not
yeah,
normally.
and hopefully she sees that it was worth putting in that time and that
Yeah,
effort.
and that's one thing I want to hit on, and I really am. I hesitate to say this because I don't want to sound like okay boomer, which I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer, so but anyway, there is a there's just a different work ethic I'm seeing in like maybe younger millennials and Gen Z. My kids are Gen Z.
Uh-huh.
And to some extent, I kind of respect it, right? Like our that generation is like, listen, you're not going to use us and abuse us and then leave us hanging out to dry. So
Sure.
you get what you get. You don't pitch a fit. I'm going to come in. I'm going to do my time. I'm going to go home and then leave me alone. Right? Like I kind of understand. I like that to an extent.
Okay. Yeah.
However, that might work at a job you don't care about. But
Yeah.
in something like this, like I got my start, my very first job, we might have talked about this. I was on the air working 2 radio stations at one time and vacuuming and taking out the trash and being available whenever they needed me.
Yeah.
Same thing with my next radio job. I worked every Christmas, every Easter, every Thanksgiving. Sometimes I would work overnight. I would do an overnight shift after being in school all day, come in, do midnight to 6 a.m., go home
Oh,
and sleep
wow.
for a couple hours, and then come back and do 6 to midnight.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had to hustle. And
Yeah.
part of why I kept a job and people, when they needed someone for something and when the opportunity came for the next level, it was like, well, this girl works hard and her attitude is good. And we
Yeah.
know, she'd be a great fit for this. And so if you are of the mind that, I just don't want to let my employer use me that way. That's not cool. And I would never be okay with that. Fine. I mean, that's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. And I hope you're able to do what you want to do in the industry that you want to do it in. But you also need to know that if you're trying to go after a job that a lot of people want and that few people get, you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
to put the grind in. And if you're not willing to, then it's probably not for you.
Right. Totally agree. And I think that's a good place to stop the show.
Cool. Get off my property.
Hey, I'm going to land the plane here. Going to learn how to be a personality in front of a microphone.
There you go. You're doing great.
Well, Tammy with an I, thank you so much for joining us on this program, on this show. And the listeners don't have to know that it took a month. Because I can edit that part out.
I've matured a lot since our first conversation.
Right. We've learned so much.
We have.
We have so much insight to share.
It was really fun. I don't get the opportunity very often to be on this side of an interview.
Yeah.
And I love it. So thank you for asking me to do this. It's been so much fun.
Well, and I'm sure this won't be the last time because
I hope not.
You are now a friend of the show. So.
Awesome. I love that. I will be on anytime you want me to.
Fantastic. Do you have any social media or anything you'd like to share with people that can keep up with the stuff you're doing? Or we'll definitely share your station's stuff, but if you wanted to shout out anything.
So you can follow me, hang out with me, whatever, on Facebook. It's Tami. It's so dumb, but it's Tami with an I, right?
Yeah.
So like 4 words, Tami with an I. That's also my my Instagram handle and TikTok handle. Don't get too excited about TikTok because it's mostly cat and baking videos from a long time ago. But I might start doing some new stuff. But yeah, and then on Instagram and TikTok, it's all one word, Tami with an I. Some people think it's Tami with Ani, like it's some kind of Hawaiian last name, but no, it's just Tami with an I, all one word.
That's hilarious.
That when
it's Hawaiian.
Hawaiian, they're like, she doesn't look Hawaiian. I'm like, no, I'm a 6-foot tall blonde woman. I'm not Hawaiian. But no, some people are like, oh, is that Hawaiian? No, it's not. It's not. It's with an I. So
now I'm not going to be able to see it any other way.
I know. Tami with Ani. That's who I am.
Aloha.
I'll save that for when I get my job in radio in Hawaii. That's what I'll be.
Oh,
That'll be my radio name, Tammy with Ani.
hey,
I
that's
love it.
it's gonna be worth the hustle then, right?
I think it will be for sure.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks again, and I'm sure we'll talk shortly.
Cool. Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, bye. Okay, well, that was some very interesting stuff. Marquise, since you said at the top of the episode that you're kind of familiar with this world, you've been in that world. Was there anything that she said that kind of mirrored your experience?
Well, the big her beginning stages of DJing out of just getting how it came about, was just like an experience and just trying to find something. I knew I wanted to get into radio,
Yeah.
and I just really just called every radio station that I could. And I was sitting in my dorm room, and that's back when, probably gonna date myself, but phone books.
Oh man.
Remember phone books, yellow pages? I would go through the yellow pages and just comb through the yellow pages and call every radio station. And finally one bit on it, and they say they didn't have a part-time or internship. That's what I was calling for. But they said they had a
Yeah.
part-time position. So I took it. I didn't even have to use it was funny how she was talking about, using the tape. You gotta hear your remember when you have to record yourself,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nowadays that's so dinosaur like,
Yeah.
but I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to do a code read for my for that, but I did have some ready. So I remember that. So that definitely kind of sparked. I was like, oh, I remember those days. I remember when, you had to have recorded tapes and walk around with tapes in your pocket, and
Yeah.
and trying to go and get a job at the radio station, and you gotta do code readings and all of that stuff. That's so, you know, outdated now. But yeah, that definitely was uh, um uh, um a flashback for me.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Very cool. Well, I think that might do it for this week. What do you think, Marquise? Anything else?
Yeah. Mm. I mean, it speaks for itself. It was this
Yeah.
one was a little different because it was, ups and downs, and I heard the shivering in the voice at the beginning, the emotional. So
Yeah.
you trying to get your own Barbara Walters show going on here. Um,
That's right.
you know,
The guest will come on and I'll go, before we start, you'll probably want to go ahead and grab a box of Kleenex because we're going to get real deep.
and then the death of a coworker. I was like, what is Nate trying to do? He's
Yeah,
trying to
his
pull at people's heartstrings. And
so yeah, that's interesting. And kind of what I was thinking when she brought that up is, the old theater adage, the show must go on.
hmm
And I think sometimes you hear that saying or you think of that saying and it's just kind of like, oh, that's just something people say. But unless you're in an industry or a profession where you've got to do that, like I don't know if you can really understand the gravity of those situations. And then it made me wonder, like, how often does that happen? How many times are
now
we
that you hear that,
watching? Yeah,
hmm
you listen to a radio show or you watch a news broadcast or anything that's live, um, and go, man, you know, these people. You're almost acting in a way,
in
and
a sense, yeah, because you got to put on a show, and not a
yeah,
show, but you have to, because not everybody knows what's going on because you're on the radio. So you have
yeah,
to put, it's like two people. You have to put, this self aside and bring up this one. So no one knows what's going on, and you hear them laughing and joking, and then when the mics go off, it's just like a crime fest because one of your
yeah.
co-workers passed away.
Well, and I think she even brought up about forming a radio personality and whatnot. Um, I imagine for most that who they are on the radio isn't always who they are in real life.
hmm
Um, And I wonder if that's a defense mechanism, especially if you're a newscaster and you got to talk about stuff that's not good, like almost all the time. It seems that way anyway. Um, but
Mhm.
is that a mechanism to separate yourself from the reality of your job and the reality of your life? Um, so yeah, that's almost like two worlds are colliding when you find out that you have a coworker that's a part of that show um, pass away. Like, how do you go on respectfully? And she mentioned that of course they couldn't say anything because they weren't sure that
All the family
the
members
family
knew,
knew. Yeah,
so you had to wait on that. Yeah, that's crazy. I
man,
mean, that is,
and just to have all that weighing on you and to act like everything's fine and be like, okay,
and
well, next
especially
up, the
if
next three songs we're gonna play are the top hits from the you gotta really lean into that kind of stuff in the
yeah,
back of your
especially if
mind,
he's
knowing,
part of the show
golly,
and everything. If he's part of the show, people that's listening know he's not there.
yeah,
So, and some people may think that it's just, he's off, but you don't know because everything seems so normal. And
yeah.
then all of a sudden they come back. Hey, guess what? XYZ passed away. What?
So here's what that story did for me, and a lot of other things that Tammy was talking about. And I'm going to preface this by saying, um, I never I never thought that people who are in radio have it easy. So I'm just going to put that out there. But compared to other jobs, you might think that it's not as taxing, that it's not as quote unquote hard, or it's not as fill in the blank, whatever you want to say. Because most of the time it appears to be fun. And all you're doing is playing music. How hard can that be? So we hear these stories from Tammy about, and this is just her perspective. Who knows what other radio personalities and radio station workers are dealing with on a daily basis. But to have seen behind the curtain and go, oh, okay. Like there's obviously a lot that goes into making a day happen at a station. That's why I was asking, kind of what's a typical day like? But to know that just like anybody else in other jobs, you're going to have your ups and downs and your good days and bad and your easy and hard. Um, it was kind of refreshing in a way and also eye-opening just to hear like, hey, like working in radio's not a piece of cake.
Hmm.
And especially now, with Clear Channel and all that kind of stuff, we won't get into any of
Yeah.
that. But she was obviously saying like radio's not what it used to be, and so is just about everything else.
Yeah,
And
everything is being automated with, iHeartRadio. And like I said, you can, everything is automated.
yeah,
Like when I
and
was saying at the beginning, when you have to, as being a radio announcer back then, you had to, you know, I was playing CDs.
yeah,
How many stations are now? Probably AM stations now. Can you remember? Can you just think about that? AM stations now are probably playing CDs, and some of them are even some of them are not.
right,
But if they are playing CDs, it's AM stations. If so, that it has changed over time.
yeah,
And I saw, where that conversation was going because, like you said, that's everything.
yeah,
Everything now is moving to computers and automated service, and you don't have to go in. We're just talking the other day. You don't have to go. Remember when you had to go get a job and you had to go in the store to fill out the application,
right,
talk to a
yeah,
manager.
yeah,
How often do you do that now? Very seldom.
golly, yeah. There are some places where you can't even do that. They're like, oh, you got to fill out an application
Or go,
online.
or go sit over there in a corner on that computer that's dusty that nobody ever works
Right.
on. fill out the application.
Yeah. So for better or worse, um, automation and I mean obviously AI is going to play a big role into that kind of stuff eventually. You can make an argument for or against what some would call progress and what some would not. Um, but it was interesting to know that like, again, kind of the whole purpose of this show is like we're all not that different.
Hmm.
Tammy's a radio personality, but she's got stuff going on at her job that, I've experienced similar things at mine, or maybe you have, or maybe any of the listeners have. Um, so it would, in a way, even though some stories were sad or, um, bleak or whatever, and
Hmm.
obviously some of her anecdotes were happy and joyful and positive. I mean, it like that's life, and I mean, just another lesson learned of when you see somebody and you go, man, that person has it all together, or that person is successful, however you measure that, or that person has, everything figured out. Man, chances are they don't.
Yeah,
You,
you
you
never
you
know.
listen to the radio and you're like, oh man, these people are having fun. These people are living the dream, but you
It
don't know
may
what's
not be.
going on. Yeah, when a song's playing, like they may be grieving a death of a coworker or a family member, or after that show is over, one of those people might be getting fired. You know, you just it's it's crazy. I think it was a um really good segment to just bring home for me. Like, man, we're just all out there trying. Like when I asked her, what advice would you give somebody who um wants to do this? And then I joked, like, would you tell them not to?
Hmm. Yeah,
And
it's out there.
it's funny because last week when we had Matthew on the show, part of his story was he had people telling him not to get into conducting because, you know, essentially
It was
there's not a lot
hard.
of money in it, or it's
Yeah,
hard to be
not a
successful.
lifestyle. Hmm.
And it's like, man, if you know that's what you're supposed to do, and even Tammy was saying, like, she knows like doing that is what she was built for. And also, I know people tell me that I have a radio voice, but my goodness, Tammy's radio voice is primo. And
Well, when
she's
you've been
even
doing it for 20 something years, I mean, you would
right.
expect that's all, you do. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
And she's done voiceover work and like commercials and stuff too. So it's pretty neat. But yeah, like I would say anybody who's listening, again, just be encouraged to do what you think you're supposed to do. And I'm not going to say don't listen to other people. Um, definitely listen to people who know you and who know your talents and your gifts and your abilities, but don't listen to the haters. And,
Yeah.
don't, it's about perseverance and striving. And just because you hit a speed bump or a wall or a roadblock doesn't mean that that's the end of the story. Um, that's all I gotta say.
Yep, absolutely. Sound good to me. Perfect. So, on that note, I hope you guys really, really enjoyed this week's episode of Echospective. Um, change of events. But I really, really, really enjoyed this one because I think it was more personable to me. Um,
Yeah.
because I can relate a lot to, her story. So I think that's what it is. So guys, I hope you as well. So and always remember, we want you to be friends of the show as well. So go to our website at echospective.com. Check us out at Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Send us a message. Give us a call, 336-298-8124, and buy us a coffee as well.
And
Send us a line, man. Let us know if you like. Let us know what you want to hear. If you want to hear, something else, drop us a line. Let us know you out there listening.
yeah. And if you like to bake bread, maybe you could send us some bread. So
Hey, hey,
I
hey,
made,
hey.
I made an Instagram post about some bread that was on Tammy's Instagram, and it looked good.
Yeah,
Bread
send
is
us some
yummy.
bread. Yeah, bread is yummy. All aspects of it.
That's right. Well, until next time, folks, this is Nathan.
And I'm Marquise. Check you out later.
See ya.
This Day in Music, March 27th, 1987. U2 stopped LA traffic with a rooftop video shoot on top of, guess what? A liquor store downtown Los Angeles. The name of the song was Where the Streets Have No Name. And after you come out of that liquor store, you probably won't even remember what the street name was if it had a name. This day in music. 2012, David Bowie's landmark album, The Rise of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, was celebrated with a blue plaque in central London. What's a blue plaque? Well, in London, apparently started in 1866. It's a plaque that represents the past, people of the past, with buildings of the present. So they get a blue plaque on buildings, and it's been going on since 1866. So it's something special, Cool. Well, David Bowie, he got his blue plaque for Rise of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars in London, 2012. This Day in Music. 1965, the Supremes topped the Billboard Hot 100 for the fourth time with Stop in the Name of Love. Man, that was a classic. I know y'all singing that song right now, right? Bobbing your head, got your finger up. I know how you do. This Day in Music. This day in music. Hey, This Day in Music 2019. Coldplay frontman Chris Martin had a restraining order granted against a deranged stalker. Okay. The woman who has visited the outside of his home numerous times claimed they had a romantic relationship. Martin stated that he feared for his safety and his family. I don't think that this might want to be something to be remembered in This Day in Music. What you think? Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking. Nobody wants to. Hey, what happened on this day for you in music back in 2019? Oh yeah, I got a restraining order on this stalker woman. Yeah. As we continue on This Day in Music, 2015, country singer Willie Nelson announced that he and his family, get this, were hard at work. Go ahead, Willie, on a new brand of marijuana called Willie's Reserve. I know some of y'all got some of that. Go on and get that Willie's Reserve. That sounds like a liquor, don't it? Willie's Reserve. But nope, that is Willie Nelson and his family. They was hard at work making that marijuana. Willie's Reserve. This Day in Music. Oh, check this out. This Day in Music. This is cool. No, it's not. 2006. Former Village People policeman. Y'all know YMCA. His name is Victor Willis. He was arrested in San Francisco, California, after he disappeared from a drug and gun trial. How do you disappear from a gun and drug trial? Hey, yo, I'll be right back. I'm going to go head out and go to the vending machine, get me some snacks. I'll be right back. How do you disappear from a gun and drug trial? Not a charge, but a trial. Okay, whatever. Check this out. Now, this is real cool. 2004, Prince kicked off his musicology tour in Reno, Nevada. The average ticket cost $61. You will not go to a concert now for $61. No. Which includes a copy of the musicology album. So not only do you go to a Prince concert, you get an album for $61. Really? Where have the times gone? The tour takes and get this, 87.5 million from 77 shows in 52 cities across the United States and sells more than 1.4 million tickets, making it the highest grossing of 2004. That is crazy. Musicology tour, man. I would love to see who would have that album. I bet you that album is a classic. Man, that's how he did things, man. Prince was the greatest, brother. Rest in peace. We miss you, man. Hey, check this out. 1991, This Damn Music. New Kids on the Block. Donnie Wahlberg was arrested after setting fire to carpets, plural, using a bottle of vodka. So, is this something also that you would want to, hey, this is my anniversary date since 1991. What happened, bro? What'd you do? New Kids on the Block, what, y'all had a new single? There's something? Nah, I set fire to carpets at a hotel. Yeah, let's take a couple of drinks off that. Or maybe get some Willie's Reserve. Yeah. This day in music. This Damn Music 1976, Paul McCartney and Wings were forced to postpone forthcoming U.S. tour for 3 weeks after the guitarist fell in a hotel bathroom and broke his finger. So they had to cancel because somebody fell in the bathroom and broke a finger. Man, them tubs is slippery, boy, I tell you. Ooh. Poor fella. This day in music. This Damn Music 1971. Bruce Springsteen and Friendly Enemies opened for the Allman Brothers Band in New Jersey. Tickets cost $4. My bad, Prince, you high. You get $4 and go see Bruce Springsteen and the Allman Brothers Band. Yeah, but you get an album, Prince, though, so maybe $61 will work. I don't know. This day in music. Oh, birthdays. Who we got birthdays? It's your birthday. Guess what? 1970. Guess who was born on March 27th? 1970. Yep, Mariah Carey. Happy birthday to one of the greatest singers, songwriters, actors, record producers that has done it. Mariah Carey. Happy birthday. Who else we got? Jamiroquai. Y'all remember that band, Jamiroquai? The drummer. Happy birthday. Derek McKenzie. Happy birthday, brother. This day in music. Happy birthday, Fergie. 1975. Black Eyed Peas. Today is her birthday. This day in music.
Echospective was recorded and produced in Mockingbird Studios. Brought to you by Marquise Burke and Nathan Sieg, and in part by their respective families. We thank you all so much for pushing us to strive for excellence. And we thank you, the listener. Your support means everything.